It's great. I think we can slowly start. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today. And welcome to this Scalable Cities Café on replicating e-mobility solutions. Before we jump into today's cafe, let me briefly introduce you to Scalable Cities, an initiative of the European Commission that that helps take smart city solutions beyond the pilot stage. Our mission is to scale up smart city solutions and replicate successful innovations tested in cities across Europe. And also to ensure that proven solutions don't remain isolated experiments, but instead benefit more communities. That's exactly why we're here today, to share valuable knowledge and real-world examples from cities leading the way. I have a little issue in changing the slides. Here we are. So Scalable Cities is a city-led community that brings together lighthouse cities, which pilot innovative solutions, fellow cities, which learn from and adapt these solutions, and positive energy districts, which focus on sustainable urban energy system. Today, our network includes 28 projects supported by EU funding, with 142 unique cities working together to drive innovation. It's a project that dates back to 2014. And since then, these projects have all received European Commission backing. And the support continues throughout 2024 and 2025 with a strong focus on building positive energy districts. Today's cafe, which is a series of cafes, is on replicating e-mobility solutions. You'll be able to hear insights from our experts on what truly enables replication of e-mobility solutions. And you're joining a conversations on the tools and strategies and structures that support meaningful replication. And you're also here to listen from a sharing of experiences and learn from real-world examples of how cities across Europe are scaling e-mobility and leading sustainable urban transformation. As you may know, this is part of a series of cafes. It's our 11th. You are more than welcome to view all the recordings of the previous cafes. And we still have 2 to go after this, but we're going to be sharing more information in the coming weeks. Before we begin, few housekeeping rules. If you have, okay, so the session is being recorded. Feel free to turn off your camera if you do not wish to appear in the recording. After the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session. But if you have a question that comes up during the discussion, we really invite you to raise your hand, pop it in the chat. It's a time to have as a dynamic discussion as possible. So please post it and let us know in any way. And also, for your information, a recording of the session will be uploaded on the events page after the cafe. So keep that in mind if you're not comfortable in sharing your video. Before we begin the discussion with the experts, we do want your input. So we invite you to log into slido.com or scan the QR code that you see on the screen. This will allow you to actively participate into today's discussion, share your thoughts and answer polls, and engage with the experts further. This is why, before we begin, I'd like to start and open the floor to the audience, actually, and ask you directly, what was your first experience with an electric vehicle? So we kind of understand what you're more comfortable, what you've began using as electric vehicle, and what you tried for the first time. Interesting. And I invite the experts to please jump in and comment if they want to. Okay. You just have
Yeah.
a pretty
Probably just to clarify this something else. Although it could be included into electric bus, but I was not sure. A trolley bus, I think it's a sort of e-mobility that has been with us for a long time in cities. Yeah, much more before than e-scooter.
Okay, let's jump in quickly into the next one. So of the list that you've just seen before, which one you think will grow the fastest up to 2030? And here's just a matter of writing down the word. Great. I guess that we do have the two winners here, but it's just a simple way to understanding more what audience we have in front. So in your opinion, what is the top benefit of e-mobility? So from your personal experience, obviously mobility taps into
I think we have a winner here.
we definitely have a winner here.
It seems that we are seeing the mobility application as a city or inner city impact, right?
Yes, although well, I think that quiet street has to be in mind.
I was also thinking on Quiet Street. I think there is an interesting graph in which electric vehicles are no more noisier than combustion ones above certain speed, since the sound of the pneumatics or the wheels are equivalent, right? Fernando, I see that you are nudging.
Yeah, this is an important topic because in the cities, if we want to make the comparison between the combustion and the electric vehicles, the tires are really important because at the end, when you are driving in the highway, the noise could be similar. Okay, but in the city is important, the reduction of the noise. Really important. This is the problem of cities that they are having problems. For example, in Vitoria last week appears a news in the newspapers speaking about the big influence in accidents in the new e-buses. Okay, and the problem were not the e-buses. The problem were the noise or the not noise. Okay,
it's quite interesting.
Yeah. We are not used to live in cities without noise.
No, definitely not. So thank you all to the audience to have participated in this brief icebreaker. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our experts today. We have amongst us Fernando Velazquez Jimenez, which is an EV infrastructure consultant. There's Breogan Sanchez, who is a senior urban mobilities advisor from Babel Smart Cities. And we also have Gregorio Fernandez, who is an academic in RES and smart grids. Unfortunately, Florian couldn't join us today, but we're definitely looking forward to hearing from all our three experts that have joined. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eugenia. So yeah, a pleasure to be here with you all and sharing this coffee. I'm taking the mug of my son. He's in the school now to remember him. So as you see here, Fernando Velazquez, Gregorio Fernandez, Breogan Sanchez. We couldn't be more Spanish in this meeting today. Unfortunately, Florian couldn't join us today. And well, myself, Breogan, I'm a project manager in Babel Smart Cities. Babel is the urban innovation accelerator in Europe. So we facilitate implementation of solutions in both mobility, energy, governance, waste collection, for example, in all cities in Europe and beyond. And we are also the coordinators of the current project that we are showing today, which is the Scalable Cities Call for Experts in E-Mobility. So a little bit to share about the background. Our mission and why we have been selected to carry this study is to bridge the gap between the innovation and implementation. We have seen that, well, the world of e-mobility, as one of the questions that Eugenia presented before, is an evolving one. There are innovations that are appearing almost every year, if not every month, in all types of mobility. We see here examples of last mile mobility, but also we comment e-scooters, e-bikes, the fleet management, which is an important topic in our research of both public and corporate fleets. And what we realize, and this is why we are committed to our mission, is that the examples from the Scalable Cities project that has been finished in 2020, in 2019, is the reference that we are mostly working. Some of them a little bit recent, have still a very important gap for implementation, right? So we want to use our guidance and bridge that gap and accelerate what we have found in our studies by also discussing with the cities, see how they have been implementing the results, which scalability options do they have, especially which success stories and failure stories they have to share with other cities around. And as we see here, developing a roadmap for overcoming barriers in deploying real, and this real is important, after several discussions with my colleagues, especially with Fernando, we want real large-scale e-mobility innovations, not just ideas that are in a paper and cannot be implemented since we didn't take into account several conditions, but we are carefully noting which are the aspects that should ensure the replication of mobility. We are a group formed by the triple helix of innovation. We have academics, we have business developers, we're also involved in the innovation ecosystem. Myself, I bring the expertise on urban mobility to the pool. And for this, we have prepared a methodology that we have carried until, well, the project is going to finish actually in 20 days. So we have successfully carried all the steps until its very end. So if I may ask you to jump the screen, the slide, please. In which we have make a very deep analysis of the scientific and grey literature, so for both the technical aspects and also the policies. This was very important to understand the local context and also the regional and international context as well. We have also taken trends and challenges from different platforms, Cordis, and specifically also our knowledge hub. We are, in our organization, we are gathering up to 700 use cases from all over Europe that includes how to implement a project. This is why we believe that the solutions that we are including here could be guaranteed to be replicable. And we have selected up to 20 Scalable Cities projects, in which most of the ones that you show in your slide before, Eugenia, are there. From these Scalable Cities projects, of course, there were a lot of solutions, a lot, probably 20, 30, if I'm not wrong, it has been a long time already. And we carefully try to select the 5 most trending topics, the ones that are being the most demanded one, that could be also the most holistically applied. So one of them could touch different disciplines as well. So we could cover as much as possible, and this is the one that you see here in the table, right? So regarding charging infrastructure, is the public charging system that we believe is one of the key conditions to largely deploy electrical vehicles and also public vehicles around the cities. Towards the electrification of fleets as well. So first we provide the infrastructure. We also provide or we suggest how to how to electrify the fleets themselves by suggesting methodologies to implement electric bus system, as I said before, public and corporate as well. The last mile delivery, how to electrify vehicles. We also talked about the regulations in some countries about the low emission zones, for example. Also a trending topic if you are following the news, especially in France the last weeks. About vehicle sharing system as well. And another interesting topic that we found also to put the spotlight into the public acceptance and change behavior is also the bidirectional electric vehicle charging. So how our vehicles could play also the role of rolling batteries, if we want, and balance the charge of the network in different times and get compensated or according to that. So with these 5 innovation modules, we have gathered up to several success factors. We have like 30 success factors for each one of the modules. And we have contrast with up to 10 cities. It's a process that is still ongoing. How the implementations of the 5 solutions has been successful. These are cities that we have selected through the use cases of the 20 Scalable Cities project, according to the solutions that we see here, and also according to their maturity degrees. So we try to, and this has been a very, I would say, interesting discussion in the team. We didn't want only to hear the success stories, because when you are successful, you maybe expect that everybody would be like that, but we want also to listen to the failure stories. So for these 10 cities, as you see, 10 cities and 5 modules, we have 2 cities per module. And what we have tried to do, and we did as much as possible, is to have one very mature solutions and let's say starter or beginning or early adopter city of the solution. So to both see how we could bring both the success stories, what has been worked, the recommendations, but also what should be avoided, which recommendations should be taking care of the learning by doing, let's say, a process, right? And well, these are examples of the discussion with the cities, and the first screenshot you see there. We also had held workshops, and we are going to have an online workshop by the end of the month as well. You will see the link later on in the presentation. And probably you can jump to the next slides. There will be, all this work that we are working are being gathered right now in what we call the practical guidelines for urban practitioners, mainly addressed to city officers, but also to academia and European institutions to implement large-scale e-mobility solutions. So the idea, aligned with what I said before, is to bridge the gap between innovation and implementation, as many reference projects are dated in the very long time past already. And among the strengths of these practical guidelines, which aims at being the more straightforward as possible, we're including an assessment tool to detect early barriers, so both technical, economical, regulatory, social, operational, implementing a standard replication methodology that you see here on the screen, the Senelec and the code with the DIN as well, which is actually the one that we are using at home in Babel for ensuring the replication of the 700 use cases that we have mentioned before. We include also some practical steps for cities to enable the e-mobility solutions, like 5 mobility solutions, including some fact sheets for implementing these trending e-mobility solutions. And finally, a very simple checklist, which can be also seen as a decision chart to ensure that the city practitioner has taken all the steps valid and doesn't miss any important factor to clearly implement or is to implement the solution by themselves. If I'm not wrong, the next 2 slides are a summary. Yeah, that's right. A summary of the success factor per each one of the 5 solutions. So we see here, for example, for the public charging system, this has been a very interesting multi-criteria analysis that we have done together with the group of experts, but also requesting experts' opinion beyond. And you see there by brackets the score that we have had for every success factor, highlighting the ones that are involved, right? So for the public charging system, for example, you can see there the infrastructure cost is very important, as well as the coverage, the ongoing maintenance, availability, the incentives and subsidies as well. It's not that we are discarding the rest of factors, but these are the ones that we are taking more into account when requesting to the cities their opinions, right? So for the electric bus system, you see here it was very important for us to count on the total cost of the ownership, but also the policy measures as well. Maybe we can jump to the other, as we want also to have time for questions and not to spend all of our time seeing what we can, or reading what we can see. For the last mile delivery, very important and actually agreed for all of us is how we identify and assign the micro hubs and the local warehouses. Business model is very important in this case, and also the data-driven routing. In what regards the vehicle sharing system, for example, it's very important also the permits on how to include the infrastructure to identify and implement the vehicle sharing systems. Functionality, that's very clear. If it's not easily usable, it's not usable, let's say it cannot be used. Pricing is a very important factor as well as the satisfaction and availability. And lastly, the bidirectional electric vehicle charging, in which we are taking into account both the infrastructure cost, the dynamic pricing models, and also the energy price. As I said before, for every one of the modules, we have at least 2 cities that are providing us inputs. By far, we have already had 8 interviews with the cities. We are expecting to have 2 more before the end of the month. And we are gathering very insightful information that are going to fulfill the guidelines that I presented before. So we jump to the last slide, which is be also part of this. Our people here in our meeting today, we're going to hold a workshop, an online workshop, so a continuation of the one we have had before, on June the 26th, so in 2 weeks from now, at 11 o'clock. It's going to be very short, but very straightforward. Very. Thank you for sharing the form. Very straightforward to understand which are the key aspects that we need to take into account when shaping these practical guidelines, the official practical guidelines for city practitioners. And we will highly appreciate your support here, your opinions, your brainstorming. The more voices, the more accurate it's going to be for sure. And you will have also the opportunity to get early access to the guidelines before its official publication, to meet also relevant key public and private actors within the workshop, but also facilitated afterwards. And we will also share some funding opportunities in e-mobility in the Horizon Europe, Interreg, DUT, which could be source of funding to generate related solutions to the ones that I mentioned before. So thank you for your attention here, and while having our coffee, we are happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Breogan, for this short but very detailed introduction on what your research is about and what it entails as well. I'd love to give the word to our audience now, because I'm quite interested in knowing, after the explanation from our expert, what e-mobility solution, in your opinion, has been the easiest to replicate across cities. What do you think? If you had to guess, what of the four options on the screen actually are the easiest to replicate, where would your bet go? I invite also the experts to maybe comment what they see on the screen and the responses that they see on the screen. For now, it looks like bike sharing or e-scooter systems might be the ones that are the easiest to replicate in the audience's opinion.
I think that the e-scooter, for me, and in the studies, I think that we have been analyzing these projects from the beginning. Maybe the first project was in 2015, in 215 or something similar, or maybe early. I think that most of these projects, the history is very old. I mean that they were starters of the mobility. Okay, now most of this experience is not applicable to the new cities. Okay, then for example, important topics like Stockholm with the EV charging infrastructure, how they work, or the e-buses, how they implement and how can easily apply the experience, the knowledge in the e-buses to the other cities, is common or is easiest to replicate, because at the end, for example, e-scooters or e-bikes, depending of the cities, for Nordic countries is very easy. For South Europe countries is really complex. Cities, for example, I have the experience of Barcelona, and Breogan knows cities that we have the sea and the mountain, how to move the bikes from one side to another side is completely different experience from these sites, these cities, to another cities that are really plain. Okay, then my personal opinion is that it's easiest to replicate, for example, e-buses or the infrastructure, how to work with infrastructure, and this collaboration between the public and private funds is easiest than the bikes or the e-scooters. Okay.
Thank you, Fernando. I'll jump to the next question, which is still in the same line of what you just commented, but it's quite interesting for me to shed light and to make sure that we shed light on what was the e-mobility solution that has been the most successful. So the one that you've seen most replicated across all Scalable Cities projects.
In this case, as you can see, Breogan explained, we have these 5 study cases, okay? When we selected all the cities, we check in the topic terms or the referent terms of every project, and we saw that, of course, there are a lot of topics related to the energy, okay? But in most of the projects, the charging infrastructure, public infrastructure, of course, the e-bus, the last mile delivery, the car sharing, and of course, at the end, maybe at the beginning, innovation projects related to B2G. Now we can see real projects of bidirectional charging, like, for example, in Utrecht. Okay, like in the last months, we are checking that in the web there appears continuously information about Utrecht and other real B2G projects. Okay, I think that these 5 use cases are important and more replicable.
Hello, sorry for jumping in. Can you hear me properly?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm Fernando. Maybe the most important point or the focus, for me at least, may be very technical, is about the learned from these projects and others. I think the most important point could be the charging infrastructure, public, private, mainly public, allowing different type of users, different type of vehicles to have access to it. And I think that the complementary between high power and low power charging process, it is very interesting and very important.
I guess that this is extremely interesting because it could it could also lead me to the next question directed to the experts, which is what tools have helped cities that you've studied so far successfully replicate mobility solutions, especially understanding that there is this need, as Gregorio mentioned, of addressing the charging infrastructure issue. So in your opinion, also, how have they been adapted, the tools, to different political, regulatory, or technical contexts?
Yeah, I think that in all the projects, you can see that there are at the end a lot of information, a lot of documentation. Really, it's really complex to access to all the documentation of these 30 projects and to analyze them, okay? They have a lot of templates, a lot of PPTs, a lot of information that specific documents for the replication from the lighting cities to the follower cities, okay? But one thing that with interviews with the cities we can see is that maybe 90% of them always remark the collaboration between the public and the private. Always. This is key. This is a key topic, okay? When they speak about collaboration between public and private, they are speaking, for example, cities like Amsterdam, okay, or like Utrecht, that they are applying sandboxes, the specific communities that they are testing specific solutions, okay, we will speak after, but specific solutions. And between and in these communities, there are the public, for example, DSOs or retailers, and energy retailers, or, for example, car sharing companies, private car sharing companies, in collaboration with public institutions like universities, like the city councils, like the main government of the country, okay? And the idea is to test these solutions and after to migrate to the whole country, okay, or other cities, okay? I think that this public-private collaboration is really important.
I agree with Fernando. This public-private collaboration is basic, and I would put the stress on the electrical side, let's say, as you have said, with the collaboration with the DSO, with the electrical providers. I think it is basic. Mainly, sometimes we focus on the use, but this relation with the grid and the impact that the electric vehicle could have on the grid, it is very important.
If I may also add to this question, the procurement templates and guidance specifically, probably not only on the municipal level or city level, but in coordination with the metropolitan scale, even with the regional scale, is an asset for cities to have that guidance. I mean, there's no all experts in all fields in all cities for sure. So this alignment is very important for them to implement e-mobility solutions, and financial tools as well. Getting access to the identification of which available fundings are open, both in regional, national, or even European level, is a key asset for cities. And we discover that sometimes they are probably not aware, or when they receive the news, it's too late. So the guidance on the what and when to submit an idea to a funding schema is crucial for a replication. We all know the budget limitation of cities and how they have been defined every 4 years at least, but probably every year in maximum. So this is something, having external funds that will undoubtedly help them implement the solution.
You are right, Breogan. For example, in Barcelona, okay, in the Barcelona participating in the Grow Smarter, and the PTO, we were 10 years ago the first company in Europe to introduce electric buses with opportunity charging and everything, okay? After 3 years, we were the main in all the events, the main city with this kind of charging, but we were not able to access to funds. And we stopped the introduction of the new electric buses After, of course, with the new funds from European Community for the BA and other funds, we continue. But I mean, it's really crucial to access and to know how to access to these funds, public and private, of course.
Yeah. I guess that if on one side we saw what tools help cities successfully replicate e-mobility solutions, to the question of what are the challenges that they face, you've already mentioned the lack of the financial tools or access to available tools that give you access to available fundings. Is there anything else that you feel like mentioning here, as in what hinders the replication of e-mobility solutions?
I think that, Eugenia, these projects, the SEC projects, normally start with a quantity of money to spend in specific topics that you need to demonstrate. The problem is when you need to go to the real life. With Breogan, we have been in several discussions about the real business cases of some of the proposal in the SEC projects. Okay, because at the end, these projects need to go to the real life. Okay, and if you are not able to achieve these funds, you won't replicate any of these success factors. Okay, this is the main. The main is what Breogan commented: how to access to real funds, real money. But apart from this, of course, think that we started this SEC project in 2015. Okay, technological problems. Only for your knowledge, for example, Bien, okay, with the last mile delivery, they started with some Iveco vans. The Iveco vans in 2019, the range of these electric vans were only 50 kilometers, okay, to do the last mile delivery. They were not able to do it, okay. 2 weeks ago, I was in one meeting, in one presentation about T-Trucks, okay. There were 2 samples. One big company that they had the experience of T-Trucks for long distance of maybe 200 kilometers of range, okay, and they explained that it was a disaster, okay, and another company with new trucks with more than 500 kilometers of range and explained that it's a success, okay, technological, okay, early adopters, okay. Most of these projects were stated at the beginning. Another sample, Grow Smarter. In Barcelona, the Grow Smarter, the B2G, of course, they did a lot of good reports, okay, with IREC. IREC is the institute, the technical center in Barcelona. They did a really good reports, but the reality is that, and I hope that nobody from Grow Smarter are here, but the reality is that they light a Christmas tree with the car. That's all. This is the success of the real success of the Grow Smarter. Okay. Now, B2G, we have real projects with real business cases, but this is 10 years later. Okay, early adopters, and the last one, the policies. Really, there are a lot of countries that need to learn from this, from the projects, from the advance, from these sandboxes, these special communities that are investigating and that are providing new or proposing new policies.
I guess that it's also very interesting to study projects that have begun 10 years ago, and also imagine how differently they would be doing things if they were to start right now.
Yeah.
We do have in our audience, Boyan is now commenting on the chat, representative from Vienna.
You are right.
And I don't know if you, Boyan, you want to chip in. You're more than free to turn your camera on and ask a question if you have any. but I see that in the chat he did post something. So he says, in 2016 in Smarter Together, e-vans of the Austrian Post in Vienna did technically work, but the project was an important testing ground, and the Post installed an innovation department that runs now, as seen in the streets, a huge pile of e-vans that apparently work. So the testing phase was also important in human development terms.
Right, you are right, Bojan. The project at the end was success, okay, because you did a lot of efforts, okay, to implement from this some warehouse, but at the beginning, in the documentation you can read that really we are having problems with the range of the bands, because Iveco, this kind of bands are really complex, the range is very low, but you push and push and push, and finally now, as far as I know, Bien, the Austrian Post, are using a lot of electric bands, a lot. It's a success. Is the typical problem with the project, but at the end, prolonging or moving the experience to the current situation is a success history.
Well, if I can just add, it's really what the added value of the EU project was here is really to launch some ideas in innovation, to have the money also to be testing new things out of the without having fear that some complaints would come about misuse of money for nonsense vehicles, because in our case technically they simply were not at the scope what they should do. It was so funny. I mean, the Post guys told us how they had difficulties because the base was like below on in the field, and they would have to drive up the mountain, which not in Vienna is no real mountain, but they didn't succeed anyway. So, but it was so important to develop like the spirit, the knowledge, also to have a communication tool towards the higher level of management to say that there is some innovation to be done, there is some research to be done that has to be financed too, but you need human resources for that, and you need a structure. So they also developed a department for EU projects on innovation, and I guess the result is what I see. I'm not following anymore, because anyway they've done their job at the end of the day. And that is in all our projects, that the technology is anyway developing so fast. The guys who are specialists, they anyway know how to get the knowledge on the internet or wherever. Basically, the technical solution is never the big problem, is how to install this innovation in a governance, in a policy, in a broader vision, either of a private enterprise or a public enterprise, well, no matter. And then societal changes come up. We didn't have e-scooters in 2015. Now they're so normal, nobody thinks. Now we had to block them because it was like a field without regulation. We had to regulate the use of them. We had an e-car sharing, for instance, installed, because it was a reflection. Now we changed the whole system in the city, so the e-car sharing, the enterprise that, well, we had one enterprise that made it e-car sharing, that went bankrupt, so that is the reality of business. We had another one which took that over, and now this second enterprise is like running e-car sharing Vienna-wide for the city of Vienna. So our little solution in the housing block became obsolete, but we still have a solution anyway. And this is something where the market is changing. Like we had our last mile mobility hubs, and we have now them all over Vienna, like more than 100 stations anyway, 50 million euros. And the one system that was installed as a pilot project in Seestadt Aspern, in northeastern area of Vienna, northern of Danube, which was specifically for this new development area, had become obsolete because we have a citywide solution. And there also this EU project and EU funding was so important. because it gave us some test field for innovation, especially as governance was involved, so that they would not be scared about making mistakes, because our scope was to make mistakes and to find gaps and possible solutions. Though the final solution, and this is so important, is to be made by those who are responsible, is not by a EU project management. It can't
Again,
be.
you need to move. You need to move
Right?
to the
So
real life.
absolutely. And so that's why from the scratch, we had to we involved all the actors from the specific areas where we were working on, so that our project management would only be sharing values, visions, communication, facilitating innovation in general terms, providing the money also, but the implementation, from the design to the implementation and the scaling up, everything had to be made by those responsible in the different specific departments. Also, our mobility department, obviously, or Wiener, which is our mobility institution of public mobility. Just for
normally, the problem is that these projects start with early adopters with new technology. Utrecht, for example, started with ABB and Chalemo cars. After, they need to move to Ionic 5 and charges from Ionic for the B2G and car sharing. Now they are working with Renault 5 and with AC bidirectional chargers. I mean that the problem is that in 5 years, the technology is moving very fast, okay? And we need to adapt the projects to the new technology, okay? This is for me, is one of the main problems. And the second, and the most, of course, first, funds. Second, the technology. Third, of course, the policies. Because at the end, in most of the cases, we are in advance of the legislation.
This is very interesting because.
But
sorry,
we provide. Sorry, oh no. Just add to the legislation issue. Well, we worked on all the innovation, and as we had included the governance and the city and all the players and the political level, we fed them with information about necessary legislative changes. So we developed a funding scheme for car sharing and car sharing and social housing. Eventually, that will be obsolete now because there's a completely new system coming up. But we had this pedelec sharing as one of the solutions, and now it's part of the city of Vienna. So it was really so important to have the players of the city, of the governance on board from the early scratch, like from the political level to the political task to do something in the governance, to develop in governance in the administration the solutions together with the stakeholders, internal, external, and the feedback, to always have this information quality management loop, if you want, in order to have innovation, and also the legal framework that has to be then adapted to that, and also the funding framework eventually.
This sparked an incredible discussion, and you basically responded to all of my questions already. So I'm gonna open up these last minutes to any questions from the audience, to see if there's anybody that would love to either share a project as Boyan just did, or ask a question. And if not, we'll just jump to the last question. But I'll give you some seconds to get the floor.
I think, can I share another experience which might be somehow related, or yes, it is related. It's our experience of e-forklifts in the industrial side of Siemens Mobility. Basically, we wanted to do something different, namely photovoltaics on the roofs of this site, because it would be so easy to terminate the project and be nice guys for the European Union and get the money from the EU for that. Well, it didn't work. So the idea of the e-forklifts came eventually from the after the highest management and our political level communicated on cooperation. On the mid-management, we had to develop ideas and solutions. And one idea was to have these e-forklifts on the industrial side, which was one thing which is, I think, important, was the participation of the blue-collar workers who themselves decided upon which model to use and how to use them. It was very kind of participative element also in the view of European respect of workers and labor force. I mean, it's a broader vision on that. And as a long result, they completely transformed the logistics on site in a dialogue between management and workers, the ones knowing what they would need and the others facilitating this. And it is this broader vision that gave some charm eventually. I would add, if you just have technical solutions, it's for technicians. It has no sex appeal eventually. That's not the right word for governance or worker. So it has no attractivity, or it hasn't the scope, the feeling. It doesn't transport any feeling, if you want so. And if you want to have citizens' participation and involvement and the use of that, you need to share also these values on the ground. And that is an element that becomes visible in this e-forklifts solution, that it was very technical and still has a broader scope. That eventually, I would add.
Thank you, Boyan, for this contribution. There is a question that one of our experts reverts to the audience, in case there's nothing that the audience would want to ask our experts today. But he's asking to name two crucial aspects for their expert team to not miss while fine-tuning the drafting of the guidelines for replication. They did mention the success factors that they're using in their research at the beginning, but maybe there's something that goes beyond that and should not be disregarded while in the research itself.
Can be also written down in the chat in case that it becomes a very complicated questions for them. So I guess we can proceed.
I do have one last question that links very well to the discussion you just had with Boyan, and it's all about, okay, so if we've seen that you're studying some projects that have begun in 2014, or maybe it's the case of some project that you've studied, and then the infrastructure needed to carry out those projects successfully has changed throughout the years. How can cities adapt without compromising the impact of the original solution? How can cities go through this, let's say, dynamic environment of continuous and very fast-paced solutions without impacting the original solution that was signed at the beginning?
Breogan, do you want to do something, say something? Because at the end, for me, the replicating is not only to copy and paste, okay? You need to know your city, okay? For example, Stockholm, they are proposing to analyze, for example, for public charging, to analyze all the city, okay, and analyze where you can put the charging stations, okay, the infrastructure in the city, and propose to the private companies where to put the charging stations, okay? I mean, related, for example, in this case to charging infrastructure, you need to know your city. It's not only, you should put only in parkings. No, because maybe you have a lot of parking places in the city center, but you have not parking places outside the city center, okay? Or maybe car sharing. Car sharing is the same, okay? For example, in Amsterdam, one good sample was that Amsterdam now, my opinion is that they have a really, really good network of car sharing. But the project that they got for the SEC project, they put the hub, the charging hub and the car sharing hub outside the city in a town that is not well. Okay, the power acquisition of the people was not too high, and then they didn't use the car sharing. Okay, I mean that apart from to get the, for example, the guidelines that we will propose at the end of the month, you need to check your city and try to apply to your city, because you need to know.
Yeah, Fernando, maybe adapt to the, not only to the city, but try to evolve along the evolution of the project. As Boyan, I think, has said, not only involve the users, the stakeholders, but also to learn about the users, to learn from their experiences and adapt this project to their experiences.
And in the north of Europe is easier than in the south. This is also another topic, and it's in opposite to mine, but the reality is this.
Yeah, just to add that also here, a solution can be considered as a use case. Probably, yeah. When I see here, well, it's not about copy paste, of course, the original solution, or not breaking the compromise of the impact of the original solutions. What we are replicating is a use case. So a measure that has worked with several conditions is what we call the DNA of the solution. So who is the owner? How could this was found? Even before that, we talk about the background. What was the initial problem? The ambition of the city. So when all these factors align, then we define which steps should be taken into account for the replicability. And here, the co-creation plays an important role. I know it's a trending word in the latest Horizon Europe project, but it's very important to take into account the opinion of every actor involved into both the implementation, into the ideation of the solution, back to the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, if we are talking about mission cities, the Climate City Contract, etc., CCAPs, and the ones that are going to be both the owners, the managers of the solution or the use case, and the ones that should measure so the impact and how this could be not only replicable but scalable in both spatial but also topic-wise.
Yeah, it's as Boyan also mentioned in the chat, it's all about tapping into the real need of the users. So make it so that a solution is not only a scientific innovation, as he mentions, but it's also the expression of a real need of users. I'm a bit conscious about time because we're already 2 minutes over time. So this is why I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you all for participating and propose to you to join the final interactive workshop that the experts are organizing on the 26th of June. You can register either at the link or send an email directly to Breogan. And obviously, let's keep in touch, stay connected, and follow us on the social media for updates and insights. I thank you really all for having participated to this cafe session. I invite you to see all the recordings of the previous cafes, and let's get the conversation and keep the conversation going. Exactly. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Eugenia and Alex, for the organization.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.